you're gonna have to lead the giant killing anime because I have barely anything on it. But real, I have 2 pages worth of it of notes here. So.
Oh, that's fine. I'm not going to talk too much about giant killing because it wasn't technically the anime I was looking for.
Okay.
I forgot the name of the anime I originally wanted, but
we'll discuss it when we get into it.
Yeah, I've tried to look for it, but
you ready to go? We're gonna go in about five seconds.
I'm not going to talk about the anime I was trying to look for that much because I barely remember now what it was about.
You can if you want. But we'll figure it out. All right. Okay.
All right. Sweet.
Are listening to episode 20. Oh my god, we're on episode 20 of Alternating with Eric. Hi Eric, how you doing?
Hey, what up? I am doing quite well. How about you?
I'm doing okay. Hey, we're on 20 now. Should we be doing something for 21 or?
Well, I don't know. I'm not exactly.
I know 100's a big occasion, but it's going to be a while before we're at episode 100.
I'd say just do 25 as a good occasion because it's part way enough for us to make it worthwhile. And plus, halfway to 50, if we manage to get halfway to 50, then it's definitely even more reason to kind of celebrate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think 21 to match the drinking age of America is a bit lackluster. Yeah. I reckon 25 is going to be the better number.
Yeah. Well, we do have a drinking video thing. It's non-alcoholic, but we do have a drinking thing that we filmed. I haven't put it up yet, but I'll put that. We did a little game and some stuff with that I could put up. By the way, I've got to say this because I forgot. I didn't put the audio out for what we just did. So we done a video episode. I have not put out the audio for that. I know some of you might be a little pissed because you go to Spotify and you're like, where's the episode? Well, it's on YouTube, so you're going to just have to watch it. I know usually most podcasts have a video and an audio thing.
Wait, am I on YouTube?
Yeah, you're on YouTube.
Oh my god, I have reached the limits, haven't I?
You're on YouTube for multiple things. You're just in audio form. This is the first ever time you'll get to see me and Eric live in person, in video, on episode 19 of this podcast.
Well, I'm just hoping we didn't disappoint a lot of people.
Yeah, it's our first video, so it took me 5 hours to edit it. No, I wouldn't say it took me 3 hours to edit it, and I will admit it's not my best job, and yeah, I didn't really work on the audio as much as I usually would with this, so I'll apologize for that now, but guys, that also is why there's no audio up, because I didn't really edit it or do anything with it, and I figured, it would be, next time we do one of these videos, I'll have the audio and I'll have the video up for you guys next time, but this is our first video, figured I'd do that. So, Eric, what have you been up to in the meantime?
Oh, back to training, back to business as usual. Because I was waiting for level 1 to kick in before I do anything, but obviously I've also been preparing ahead of time for it. So I guess with that being said, I'm back to my regular classes. I'm back to doing my usual thing. And actually just today would mark my 3rd day of training in a row. And so I am very sore at the moment. Not too tired, I am just really sore.
Yeah.
Like even sitting up and then sitting down is a bit of a chore because my muscles are just going, would you please relax, please? But it's a bit necessary to stand up and sit down. Other than that, I've regularly been working. I've been Honestly, just trying to sort out quite a bit with my room. Still haven't cleaned it up that much. But I'll be trying to do that soon. And then other than that, it's just kind of preparing for the future with our with our dojo at the moment, because we have, other than having a few people grading, we also have, what is it? Oh yeah, we also have a tournament coming up, so we need to prepare for that. It's going to be two people joining. One of them is not me. I'm getting a bit too old out there to jump into tournaments again. I might do so in the future.
By the
if I
way,
feel like
sorry,
it.
by the way, Eric is 27, and he considers that old at the moment.
I certainly feel old. Okay. Everyone else can make a joke about it. I'll let you. I don't really care. But that's just me. But at the moment, that's just basically what's been happening. And I guess looking at anime manga wise, I still haven't been watching much of anime, but just mostly reading mangas. Found a few that I liked, and yeah, essentially just kind of looking through. Managed to find one particular manga that looked a little bit interesting. It's a fantasy type manga. As it turns out, it was just straight up porn, basically. Think High School DxD, but worse, much worse.
Okay.
So that's something. So that was it was a bit of a surprise to have, but a little bit of an unpleasant surprise. But whatever. I'm not going to do much about it.
Yeah, for you
Um,
unpleasant, for some other people probably pleasant.
oh yes, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. It'll be pleasant for
To
quite a
each
few
his own.
people. Mhm. Yeah, and those people will enjoy it all the more.
Yeah.
And what else have I been? Oh, nothing much else really. Um, that's just been my life, going back to normal. My regular busy life, which has been good for me because not being busy got me a little bit bored. And what about you?
So I have recently installed Steam back on my computer because,
Yay!
yeah, hearing Eric talk about gaming and some other friends talk about gaming, and I don't have a full console at the moment or anything like that, so I haven't really been gaming very much. So I reinstalled Steam and I played a couple of my old games on there. I had to reinstall a couple of my games because they were all uninstalled. So I have been playing Mafia again, which is kind of an older game. Mafia 2, to be exact.
Mafia
And
2, wow.
that's not too bad, except for the fact that you can't, like, you have to drive really slow in the cars, and the cars are not that great. They're from, like, it's set in the 30s, and then it goes into, like, the 50s. Thankfully, since it's an older game now, they've just given you all the DLC for it, basically. So, like, I can drive, like, in a Rolls Royce if I wanted to, like, down the street, which is, like, a lot faster.
Wait, how old is Mafia 2? I wouldn't think it'd be too old.
2010, maybe 2011. Like,
I wouldn't think it'd be so old that it would have that many DLCs to
they
include in a
released
remake.
most of it. Like, this is
Mm.
this is 2, not 3. I know 3 came out,
Wait,
like,
is this legit DLC, or is it like you get a
yeah,
new car, you get a new
yeah. No. It's
so
legit, like, DLC that they've just said, fuck it, you, like, can now have it. Like, suits and clothing and, like, cars and shit that you couldn't drive previously.
mm,
So,
okay, so and any new missions, like new story missions, or
yes. There's, like, a bonus thing you can do if you want. I personally don't like it because, like, the new main character they give you is not that interesting. The story in Mafia 2 is, like, pretty generic. It just, like, basically wants to be the Godfather and a bunch of other things. And if you like that sort of thing, then it's like it's kind of fun. Does the job. So there's that game, and then I installed Guilty Gear, and I played a little bit of that, and then
wait, which one?
what is it, like, XRD or something like that, Xherd or something
Oh,
like that.
I think I have that one. Let me look, because I've
I'm
got my
terrible at it. I am absolutely terrible at it because I
oh,
haven't played it in years.
don't worry about it. I haven't gone past some of the ones I have. Which one? Because I managed to collect a few Guilty Gear
I think
games
it's
over.
EX. I think it's EX.
Which one do I have? I've got XX Accent Core Plus, plus R actually, and I have Guilty Gear X2 Reload, and there's also a much newer Guilty Gear game that I managed to grab.
I know my one has the girl with the
yeah.
guitar in it. That's the one that I have. She's like a
Okay,
witch
then.
and she's got a guitar.
Oh, she's in every game.
Yeah. Oh
There
no,
was
she's
a
not in the early
Eno.
Guilty Gears, like the PS1
No,
versions.
no. Wasn't she? I'm pretty sure she was in
No,
the
no,
first
she's not.
one.
She's
Okay.
added like for some of the newer ones.
Okay. But anyway, that was my one because I got Guilty Gear XRD sign. That's
Yeah,
the other I have.
that might be it. It's one of those. So
Mm.
I played a bit of that. I'm kind of terrible at it. I don't have a controller with me at the moment, so it was all on PC. So like playing it on a keyboard's not quite the same. But I was not that great at it to begin with. And then I also, I installed, maybe someone could tell me what's going on with my computer. So I installed Batman, the Telltale series. I played a little bit of that at Eric's on his old PS3. It's a fun game. But for some reason, I play it like for a long time, and then I get up to a certain part with some sort of mobster that Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent are talking to, and then halfway through, like, I'll get to a certain point, and then it will just, like, my computer will just shut down, like, just completely shut down, just everything turns off, like, and then what I did is I thought, okay, maybe, like, my graphics are, like, running, like, I need to change something in my graphics, so I went into them. I put it on power saving mode because I thought that might help. Did that. And then now what happens is my computer doesn't completely shut off. The game just crashes normally. Instead, it just freezes and then it just like says, like it just freezes basically, and that's it. Like,
Okay.
yeah. So.
I mean, it could be because your computer might not be able to handle the Batman Telltale series. But then at the same time, it's thinking, I remember the Batman Telltale series. I remember playing it. I wouldn't think your even a computer. Because how old is your computer?
My laptop is maybe like, oh shit, that's a good question actually. It might be 3 years old, like 3 years old at most.
Okay.
It's a
3 years old.
Samsung laptop.
Mm.
And it's Windows like 8 or something.
Mm. No, I mean there might be a few reasons why that's happening.
Yeah.
But I think could be just the computer. Maybe the Batman Telltale series can't handle, or maybe your computer maybe can't handle the Batman Telltale series.
It's handled other games. I've played the other Batman games and had no problems. I've ran Batman Arkham City on it and had no issues. Like, you know, so.
Okay, that's even weirder because there's a lot more graphics with that one.
Yeah, and it's a point and click game too, which is pain in the ass. But whatever. I just went to YouTube and watched all the cutscenes that I like hadn't completed. I was just like, I'll watch a Let's Play because it's the and then just hope they make the same decisions I do. All right, so let's get into what we are reviewing today. So Eric chose this one, and Eric was going to pick something else, but he ended up choosing this. And this is a anime / manga about soccer. It's called Giant Killing. I'll let Eric describe most of it and sort of give some backstory.
So I was actually trying to find something that was similar to what Connor was picking, because I swore I remember something along the lines of an anime similar to this. It wasn't sporty, I don't think it was, but it was quite similar to what Connor's described as the manga.
So is it like to say? So we haven't even talked about what manga we're doing this week. So we're doing Real, which is I've talked about it, but basically every week on this podcast. It's a wheelchair basketball manga, and it talks about disabilities and other things like that. So was this a disability sort of story, like about someone who's?
It wasn't. It was close to it. It was a tragedy type scenario, very similar. I can't remember if disabilities were a subject in the anime, but there was some similarities to what you described and the anime I was thinking about. But for now, I'm just going to throw that aside, and if I ever come up, if I ever see it again, I'll let you know. But for now, I cannot remember much about it, unfortunately, because Yeah, 'cause I watched
Tell us about Giant Killing then.
So, Giant Killing is a soccer anime that I found. So, this is not related to another soccer anime that came out recently-ish, but apparently was terrible, and possibly, about a kid who apparently was terrible at soccer, but everyone cheered him anyway, like some, I don't know, special, like a special mama's boy that everyone has to be friends with. No, this is about a soccer team in Japan, which has been doing terrible throughout their careers. So far, so good because there's already quite a bit of tension and quite a bit of a backstory already done on it. And actually immediately the first thing that I really like about this anime is the opening. You remember? Did you see the opening, Connor?
Yeah, I think we're gonna disagree on this because I was like watching
You
it.
gotta love. Come on, you gotta love.
I was
it
kind
a
of weirded
little
out
bit.
because when I heard the opening for the first time, I thought, wait, am I watching Spice and Wolf or something? Like, there's all these bloody like bagpipes and da 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 da. I was like, this is like kind of Irishy. And then it basically becomes Japanese Dropkick Murphys, and I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yes, that's right. The Irish Dropkick Murphys.
The Japanese
I love that.
Dropkick Murphys.
All right,
Yeah.
sorry. Japanese Dropkick
Yeah.
Murphys. I'm sorry. Honestly, I really like the opening just for that because it kind of settled on on the whole topic of what they're going to be, what the anime's going to be about.
But they're
this-
English, like it's meant to be English, but I don't know. When I think of like soccer hooligan themes, I could think of like much better songs to put than like a Dropkick Murphy. There's no Irish like things whatsoever in this anime from what I've seen.
Oh, but you gotta love that song. Yeah, I'm sorry, you just gotta love it.
Well, the ending's done by the same people, I think, as well.
But I mean, I really did like it listening to it because I was expecting a pretty generic one because I remember watching maybe the first couple of episodes of Kuroko no Basket. And the opening wasn't completely remarkable to me.
Yeah.
But then watching Giant Killing, looking at the opening, I was just like, yep, you got me hooked. I'm in. Sweet.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is, on the subject of soccer, while it is massive in a lot of countries, Brazil, South America and England, to name a few.
Yeah.
Having an opening like that, I think, really sets the mood.
It's really big in Japan. I don't know if you know that as well.
I know it's really big in
Japan.
Of course I know it's big in Japan. It's really, and I just really like how the opening fits with it because, immediately looking at it, I do think they're quite legit about how they want the anime to continue on. If you have a Japanese Dropkick Murphys singing about a soccer anime, then you've done something right.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe from your point of view, it is a bit ridiculous. I
don't know. I was just taken back a bit. I was watching it and I was like, because I've seen some soccer anime before, and usually the openings like for those are usually pretty chill, or they're kind of generic J-pop sort of stuff. Usually,
I think that will put me off because I'm not, when I'm watching something like a sports anime like that, I would be a little bit put off by the anime opening if it's a bit chill, because we know what soccer is like. It doesn't matter, which country you're in. You go to a soccer match, you watch it on TV. Every sort of media that it's ever portrayed, someone watching soccer has always, been a rabid fan. You a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of this is awesome.
Are you a fan of football, Eric? Are you a
Not for a while. When I was younger, basically, I think when I was still on Rangatai with you, I used to be a pretty big fan.
Who was your team?
New Zealand or UK teams.
I thought you were going to say Russia. Does Russia have a soccer team?
I never really paid attention to what Russia did in soccer because they've never really gone too far up.
They just kick the bomb
Plus,
around. They
yeah.
just kick a grenade around, and then
Well,
whoever doesn't lose a foot wins.
I mean, no, the other reason would be that with all the doping scandals Russia's had in the
Ah.
past, it's it kind of put me off from watching Russia do anything sports related
Yeah.
because if they do win easily without any sort of explanation, and it turns out later on the players were doped,
Yeah.
with steroids, it kind of puts you off from supporting the team.
No, I understand
So that kind of put me off a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of a New Zealand team, I've only ever really supported one, the Wellington Phoenixes, because they were fantastic, and I really liked them. I went to a few of their games. Can only remember one though, but I remember they had a close shave with that one. 1-2-1. I think it was by it was against a local team, I think from Blenheim, but I can't exactly remember. And obviously UK team, my favorite would be the Manchester United. It was Manchester United. Mostly also because it was my cousin's one, and it's what we used to bond over. Especially since he used to play FIFA. He doesn't anymore because it's very, very repetitive.
Yeah.
Like ridiculously repetitive. So yeah, I used to be a big soccer fan way before that, and then I kind of lost interest. Not sure what happened, but I guess these things do happen. But yeah, kind of looking back at the subject of soccer and watching Giant Killing, kind of brought back some of those moments I had. It was a lot of fun. I think that's why I like the opening, because it reminds me of it definitely reminded me of how much of a Rabbit fan I was, and how I had, how I used to scream and cheer alongside everybody else when my favorite team won.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, really.
I don't really. So I actually this will go into our cons. I don't really enjoy watching soccer that much, to be. I'm not a big sports guy in general. There's a couple sports I don't mind watching, and actually, funny enough, if I'm in another country and I'm with someone and our team comes on, and then I'm supporting New Zealand or England or wherever, but
then you shall burn at the stake.
because I did that, I was in Australia, and there was a rugby game on, and I got really patriotic and got into it. But most of the time, I'm not into sports. Except for I'll get into, when we get into our other manga, I'll get into some sport I do like. But soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, not really majorly my thing, even though I was born in England. And if I would have to say I have a team, it's Watford, which is they haven't done too badly. They've done okay occasionally. I like to say they're the team with the moose on them, but I get corrected by people from Watford who are like, it's not a moose. I'm like, well, I'm from Watford, so it's a fucking moose. And we were owned by Elton John at one point. Like, I know a couple things. And we,
wow.
I will usually support them. If FIFA's on, I know I'm supposed to support England or New Zealand. I'm sorry, I go for Netherlands. I'm part, my half Dutch in me, like my Dutch side of me is like, go Netherlands, because
what was the name of the Netherlands team again?
I don't remember, but I know, like Watford, we usually wear orange. Like both teams wear orange, and they both are pretty good. So yeah. But,
okay, I'm trying to remember which how far up they won, or how far up they got, but I can't remember.
But Eric, why don't you tell us what's the plot of Giant Killing?
So, as I briefly just said before, Giant Killing revolves around the focus so far is around one single team, local team that's been doing quite badly. So it's a team. It's a club, sorry. Not a team, a club
ETU,
that's been doing
the
ETU, yeah.
East Tokyo United.
Yeah, East Tokyo United. So they're a local team that's been doing quite badly because they've had issues with changes in management. They've had no plan, no backup, no real motivation to continue to be the best that they were, because they used to be in big leagues in this sort of in their sort of plays. So then they were dropped down quite low. So it looks like to be a matter of them barely holding on. So in comes an old player of theirs called Tatsumi. So Tatsumi is going to become their new manager, and his job would be to try and look at the team and see whether or not he can bring them back up again to what they were like before. And there's already quite a lot of conflict established even before Tatsumi is what is it? Even before Tatsumi comes along, because it appears to be conflict within the team, conflict with the fans of the team, just conflict in general because everyone is getting sick and tired of them changes in management. They're getting sick and tired of having to be so low down so low down in the in the competition that they can barely get out of the local plays. And this is even established with the kids teams. Like ETU has their own kids teams, which is I'd want to say adorable, but it's quite expected.
Yeah, it's junior division sort of thing. That's quite typical. They would just not maybe call it like ETU. They'd call it something else. But like with rugby, we call it like Auries or something else. For like our younger teams.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, or maybe even the little dribblers. One local club I know. It's a local club down in Kilburney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good they are, but anyway, so basically going down in the following the first episode, it shows that Tatsumi has been chosen to be the manager because of his reputation of managing a team overseas in the UK. So he's managed the team that's played all the way up to the big leagues. So they're up there. They're at the top, And people from his old club have come to find him and bring him back so he can manage their team, the ETU. And as soon as everyone finds out about this, or most people found out about this, the team itself is kind of divided. There's the newer players who feel like this is a good change for them because, if they have a manager who's this popular and this famous and who's already played with the team, then he can probably figure out what's wrong with them and fix it. Whereas all the team members who remember Tatsumi and remember that he left the team, reasons being he was offered a different position, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Remember this as a betrayal, which is not uncommon, right? Team members who have played together
it happens
for a while,
all the time.
Yeah, it does. But I guess for us who don't exactly see some of the reactions that we get from when a team member leaves because of a better offer. This anime shows that team members, and not even just the team members, the fans as well. The fans of the team even come around and hang up banners and yell at the administrative team of the club saying, "We don't want Tatsumi around. He's a traitor. He ran away or he took a better offer and left the team behind." Which, in some way is justified, right? You're not gonna be welcomed with open arms after years back decided to leave your team just because of a better offer, right? If you built up a relationship like that and then suddenly break it away, you're not going to get a warm welcome, are you? No. And that's what Tatsumi didn't get. He didn't get a warm welcome. He got the welcome he got back was "get out, we don't want you." He got conflicting team members to deal with, and in some way it didn't help because once he started in the first episode to divide the teams in terms of what he saw as not technique, with how he saw each team member having stamina and speed. It kind of became known what he was trying to do and how he was trying to fix the team. He got the people who were the fastest and the best with their stamina to be the regular players, and everybody else to be kind of the sideline players, the ones to be replaced when any of the regular players can't continue. But this has created a conflict, a really big conflict, because those regular team members those those team members that were to be sidelined were pre-existing players, so they were around for a long time. One of them even was around with Tatsumi, whose name was Murakoshi, I think. I kind of don't remember, but Murakoshi was a player who joined just around the time Tatsumi would leave. So he played with Tatsumi for a bit. He saw what Tatsumi was capable of, and being like that, he essentially once Tatsumi essentially left, he felt he should take the role of the big supporting role model for the team. And that's what he did for all the time Tatsumi left. And so Tatsumi coming back, dividing the team like this, telling the older members of the team, that they aren't exactly as up to par as with the newer members.
I think it was stamina. That was the biggest thing that he was bringing up. They had a problem with stamina.
Yeah, and it showed, after Tatsumi.
Sorry, we're spoiling episode 2, by the way, because one thing we should note, just before.
Oh yeah, we did go into episode 2, didn't we? Whoops.
Yeah. So this is one of my cons and pros for this show. So there is no big tension soccer match like on the first episode. Second episode is where you get the actual soccer match. Like you see a soccer match being played, but you don't get you don't get to see all the action and motion as much as you do in the second episode. And yeah, what Eric's talking about is Tatsumi comes in, he divides the two teams, the subs and the main players on, and puts them into two different teams, and gets them to play basically. And the outcome is that the subs, like the younger guys who haven't actually played as much, end up winning because Tatsumi sort of directs them a bit better, and they have kind of a typical thing that you have in most of these sports things, which is like that one guy who seems like he's kind of shy and quiet, but he's really skilled and he's really good. Like every sports show has this.
I know who you're talking about, but I don't think that's kind of the point there. That's only.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I know what it is. Oh, it was Tsubaki. I think that was the name of the kid.
He's definitely like that archetype that you see in a lot of sports stuff.
Yeah. I guess I just don't want to see it that way, but I think his spotlight kind of enhances the tension that's now created because he's now found to be Murakoshi's equal. Yeah. Not in terms of skill and experience, but in terms of being a newcomer with skill, with a speed and stamina that could potentially actually outclipses Murakoshi, because Murakoshi is now a bit of an old dog of the team. He can't keep up anymore, and in the second episode when they're playing the game, it shows. And Murakoshi is the best way I can describe him. He's very stubborn. He's set in his ways to be the big role model and the leading figure of the team. He feels because the other role model left, and Tatsumi left, because the team seemed to be falling apart, he has to somehow take up that mantle and continue on, which I like. But in that kind of position, it could go about any single way. But this is one of the ways it went about. He became quite stubborn with being in that position, and so he continued on, and he just. Yeah, you do see. You don't see a bit of. I don't think there's any jealousy or envy to be, towards Tsubaki, to say that he's better than me. That's not right.
No, I think he's impressed by his skill. I think
he is impressed.
Yeah,
but I think subconsciously as well, it looks like Murakoshi's. He's realized how far behind he's fallen. And realizing he might not be the supporting role that he once was back when Tatsumi left. So that's kind of a sad thing for me, because when you have a supporting role like that falls, that starts to realize doesn't fall, but starts to realize how little he is and how little he feels in the world, it just becomes rather sad. And then towards the end of the second episode, spoilers again, I guess. I always wanted to say that myself.
Yeah.
You do get to see the sorry. So towards the end of the second episode, you do get to see Tatsumi tell Murakoshi he's no longer the captain of the team because. Can't exactly remember the best reason for it, but I think it was
he's getting old.
Tatsumi,
That's what he said.
Yeah. So Tatsumi didn't have to explain it that much, but throughout the second episode, you do get to see Murakoshi is no longer he's no longer fit to be the leading role model of the team and their captain. Somebody else has to take over and continue on leading the team because if you have a team captain who's fallen behind, everyone else has to kind of fall behind with them, and the further the captain falls behind, the further the team falls behind. So Tatsumi may see this and realizes, no, this is not how things are going to be. We need a team captain who can push forward, push farther than everybody else. Because if they continue on, everyone else will follow. Mm-hmm. So this kind of thing hits everyone hard. But obviously the other old dogs of the team, some of which were loyal followers of Murakoshi, seem
loyal.
See this. Sorry, what was it?
They seem very loyal to Murakoshi, and they're disappointed by Tatsumi's choice.
I think disappointed and angry is a good way to say it, because when you have a team captain like that you look forward to and you see almost no fault in, you do feel disappointment and anger when you realize when you have a person around that's done this to them.
Okay, so let's get into some pros and cons stuff, and then we'll get into our final Then we'll get into our final thoughts on this show. So, one thing I wanted to bring up. So the first episode, we get some clips that take place in England. And the thing I noticed, and maybe Eric noticed this, the English is actually really good. It's just either really badly written,
unless it was spoken by the Japanese girl, because the old guy, his English was pretty good.
The English person didn't sound like they brought in a Japanese person that spoke English or an Australian person. They brought in someone who actually was English, but they clearly wrote a very either stilted script that wasn't like written properly, like it had some issues in the actual script writing, or they just directed this guy badly. But you can tell he is clearly English. It's not a fake accent, and it was good to hear. Like, they've got an English person, they've got an actual English accent. Unlike when they have other people in anime who are meant to be American or English, and they've got an Australian accent, or they've got some other weird accent, or it's just a Japanese dude that can sort of speak a bit of English. Like, yeah.
And even if both the old English guy and the Japanese girl have, less than a minute of dialogue and lines, maybe even less than 30 seconds, it was actually quite impressive to see that at least the old English guy's English was really well spoken. And I don't think I looked up on who actually was the voice of the old guy, but I might agree with you, and it wouldn't be surprising to see if it was an English speaker that they brought in to speak those few lines. Would have paid well as well. But so far
what did you one other thing I wanted to talk about too. This show takes place in East Tokyo. And as Eric might know, I've been to Tokyo, so
yes, you have.
I didn't notice all the locations. There's not enough of this, like them walking around the area for me to go, oh, this place I went to, or that place.
It honestly looked like my old club, my old soccer club back in Waikanae.
Soccer clubs, no matter where you go, like they don't look that different overseas. They look about the same. To be honest, like the biggest difference is maybe the fact that the soccer club is right by the river, and that's because I think it's in an area I've been called Sumida, which is by Asakusa, which is in East Tokyo. And Asakusa is where I stayed when I was in Tokyo. So if I watched more of the show, I might see some, locations and stuff that I, have walked around. Because, it's
Or
in my,
maybe, yeah,
neck
or
of the woods
maybe
that I've
they
been
might
around.
not focus on that, because if this looks to be a very heavily soccer orientated
Mm.
a soccer orientated anime, chances are they might not focus more on the local surroundings and more
Yeah.
on the
Although,
they'll focus. I think that what they'll focus more on is
mm,
the areas of their
their
opponents, or
teams and
their
stuff.
opponents in general,
Oh,
because
okay.
in a orientated anime like this, if that's what it is,
Yeah.
you don't see a lot of
Mm.
local traditions or local places, unless of course they're focal to
Yeah.
the they're the
You.
main point of the story.
Mm. You say that though, but I've when I was in Tokyo, I got to visit because they definitely in Hajime no Ippo, you can definitely see some locations they've actually picked from real life.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah, I know
I
that.
went to the stadium that I think Takamura fought Brian Hawk in.
Oh my
Like I went to
God,
that
did you
studio. I
actually?
went to that boxing
Oh,
stadium.
I did not know that. You never
I
told
did.
me that.
I
No, you
did.
didn't.
I went in. I even went inside and everything. It doesn't,
Oh, I've forgotten that. Oh, that would have looked fantastic. What is it? Was it as massive in life as it was in the manga?
well, no, I didn't go. When I say I went into the stadium, I went to like the outside building, and yeah,
Uh,
the outside is huge, like the big dome arena, like it's huge, and then
mm,
inside, like yeah, I haven't been in that many New Zealand boxing like arenas, so I don't know what they look like, but this like just yeah. It didn't look like anything in Ipoh because they don't necessarily always go like to the counters and things like that. They usually like wait in like by the entrance. I did see
yeah.
the entrance that they wait outside of before they go into the match. I don't have a photo of it, but I did see where they like line up and where they go in. So yeah, that was cool to see, and I'm sure there are little things like that in this show. But one thing I wanted to mention that we should definitely mention is the animation of a few couple CGI shots that maybe were a bit iffy here or there. It looks pretty good. Did you
hmm
think that as well? The CG the
I think, yeah, I think it was actually good, but I think it does switch between both CGI and, I
mm,
guess, hand drawn as well,
mm,
which I don't see as too bad, as long as it works
yeah,
both ways, and as long as that intermixing of
yeah,
styles doesn't upset anything. But I guess in in a game like soccer, that especially when you're animating it, it really doesn't matter.
yeah,
The moves and plays in soccer, regardless of how you animate it, always look pretty cool. Even if the hand drawn
mm,
style has a lot of stills, it still looks impressive.
yeah.
CG probably would make the movements a lot more impressive.
It's got some good. It's got some good. Actually, you brought it up. It's got some really good movement and like the animation as well, and like
hmm
really detailed
Yeah,
the fast pacedness of soccer,
yeah.
and that I thought was well done as well.
And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they actually did it, but I think they might have intermixed CGI with quite a bit of hand drawing,
Mm,
because it occurred when I was watching the slow mos in the second episode, and that was especially true watching Murkoshi, fall behind from
yeah.
Tsubaki, trying to chase after
Mm,
him, and him getting slower and slower.
hmm
And it was so crisp and so smooth and so clear to watch it. It's just like, oh, I should be sad, but the movement just looks really good.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll say this. So, if you don't really like soccer, this show, like the matches, I will say, even if you don't like soccer, the matches are not too boring to watch when they're actually having a match. All the in between, like dialogue and talking about soccer and like the passion of soccer and stuff. If you're like me and you're not really that passionate about it, it's going to be a little bit boring and it's going to feel like it dragged a little bit. That's just something I noticed. I know Eric was a little bit different because he grew up with soccer a bit more and it was nostalgic for him. For me, it was kind of like there were parts of it was like, okay, all right, are they gonna play yet? You know, am I gonna? And there was episode 1 where it was like, is this gonna finish yet? I have to review it. Like there were parts of it I wouldn't say I hated this anime. It just wasn't for me in a couple times. And I thought Tatsumi was a bit too cocky in places. There were times where he was just like a little bit too cocky. He's a bit of an asshole.
I see that as well, and I see that as a bit of a negative point as a con so far. Tatsumi being arrogant, I think, could come up as a real what is it? It might come to a point where it could actually create even greater conflict between him and the team members, maybe even the newer ones. Because if the newer members put all their trust into him, you know, and suddenly see he's been quite arrogant about it when they have a big loss, then that's going to grind a bit of the relationship to a halt, and could potentially, I wouldn't say break them apart, but definitely cause some permanent tension between them. It's the only other con I have is kind of the drawn facial expressions. On very few of the characters, it's not that bad, but on someone like Tatsumi, it just feels a bit wrong, I feel.
Okay.
It seems simple and it seems to be simple, but also trying to be detailed, and it just looks a bit wrong. Is it just me, or is it?
No. I had some problems with the art as well sometimes, and what you're mentioning. So what are your final thoughts? Are you going to keep watching this? Would you recommend this?
Yes, I'm going to keep watching this. So then I could turn that opening into a ringtone and play it every single time we see each other, and then play it on a repeated loop until you go mad.
Okay, Eric.
No, I'm kidding. I would definitely like to watch it because this looks like a really enjoyable soccer anime. Since first 2 episodes, they're discussing all the things that my old coach used to drill into me. Well, half the stuff I actually paid attention to. And even the exercises, even some of the breaking up of teams and how we play, it really brings back a lot of good memories. And something I want to continue watching and actually see how, I guess seeing how this team operates and seeing what kind of relationships build up from this. So yeah, that's I would definitely continue watching this.
Cool. So I might give this a 3rd episode, as you do, because I think it definitely needs 2 episodes before you can say, I hate this show. I love this show. Even if you don't like soccer, give it 2 episodes, at least the 2 episodes, and then maybe give it a 3rd and then decide. Because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it the 3 episode treatment, and then if I don't like it, I'll stop watching it. But I will admit, the show is obviously... Some of the dynamics and like the team has got me interested enough to at least give it 3 episodes. So I'll give it 3 episodes and then I'll see what I think. But overall, I would say this show isn't really my type of thing. I'm not really huge into sports anime just in general, but I thought we'd give it a go because we're reviewing a sports manga that I liked a lot. So I figured I'd give this one a bit more of a go, and I'll see what I think. Maybe I'll let you guys know next week whether the show is a yes or a no. I would maybe recommend this to soccer fans. I would say this and maybe Captain Tsubasa are the 2 like sort of shows I'd recommend to someone like soccer. I wouldn't recommend something like, I think it's called Inazuma 11, which is like a kid show that's got like magical powers and sports and shit. It's a bit more like Kuroko no Basket, where it's like basketball, but they've got powers and shit. I would maybe like not recommend that, but this maybe, yeah. Okay, so we'll be back after the break. Catch you guys after the break, yeah. Hi guys, we're at the break right now. So guys, you may not know, but I do another podcast, not just with our great guest Eric here, but I do another podcast called Insert Cast, and we have multiple guests on that podcast where I basically interview people in the audio industry. And we're always looking for new guests. So if you know someone in the audio industry who would like to be on a podcast, please let me know. That can be a sound engineer or a musician or a voice actor or even a voice acting director. Anyone who's in the audio industry, all I ask is that they maybe have some knowledge of the audio technology. It doesn't have to be a sound desk, but maybe even just an amp, sound equipment. And if they have Skype or Zoom or some sort of way that I can talk with them. If they're outside of New Zealand, preferably, something like Skype or something like that, because I can't necessarily always do phone interviews with some of those people. So, you can email me if you know someone at insertcast.co.nz. That's insertcast.co.nz. Let's get back to the podcast. All right, we are back from the break. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Not much has happened since then, so I wouldn't expect to be
obviously,
reporting
we've
a
only
meteorite.
been on like a short break. Let me talk again about the show that this time we're reviewing, instead of me just summing bits and pieces of it up in our catch-up every week. So I have been talking about this manga that I've been loving, and I'm completely up to date with it. I haven't seen any new chapters yet, but if any new chapters come out, I will be reading them. This manga is called Real, and it is by Inoue Takehiko, and he is the author of Slam Dunk and Vagabond, which you may have heard of. And this manga started in 1999 and is still going. And it is a manga about wheelchair basketball. And the plot basically is, let me just get to it. So the plot is there are three different people who are affected by either being disabled or, sadly in one case, getting in an accident and someone being disabled because of them. And it's all about how disability affects their lives, and that's basically what the plot of this manga is. And it's got a lot of wheelchair basketball in it. I guess that's the other thing, because this guy wrote Slam Dunk, and he's wrote one other thing called Something Beat that I can't remember at the moment, that is also about basketball. So this guy clearly loves basketball. Eric, what did you think of this manga? Because I've talked about it a lot.
Yes, you have talked about this a lot, and we really do have to mention how much you apparently do love this manga. But it's not a bad thing. It's good to be quite passionate about this, and I can see why you really like this. It's a good manga. It's got it doesn't take the focus of basketball. It doesn't give basketball a back seat as a focus, but more integrates it into other issues such as disability and also acceptance and inclusion, because we do have at least two of the characters who are basketball players. And I should really mention I have read almost 10 chapters of this manga.
Cool.
So I don't have the full story like you do. So if I got anything wrong, Connor, you're welcome to criticize me on it. But yeah. But it kind of reading this, some of the subjects I got from it, because we do have one of the characters, Takahashi. He's someone who so far has been in an incident which leads up to, I guess, spoiler alert, him him having his legs, or him not being
He's
able to use his
paralyzed on the
legs.
waist down, and I believe it's a
Yeah.
spinal cord injury that he has. So he's
Yes, it
yeah,
is. Yeah,
completely
it pretty much
paralyzed on the
is.
waist down, and he eventually has to go through rehabilitation. And spoilers, 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 spoilers. Don't know if Eric knows about this, but I think it's pretty fucking obvious. He joins a wheelchair basketball team.
Well, I mean, there's he has no other option if he
Yeah,
wants to continue being part of not really part of, but continue playing
yeah,
basketball
because
because
he's a former basketball player. Let's get
hmm
that clear.
well, yeah. But I guess kind of the other kind of character is Kobe Nomiya. I think that's the character. So
Wait,
that's
wait,
he's
Eric,
a
you call him Kobe? I don't think his name's Kobe. What translation have you got there?
Kobe.
You're,
Kobe.
I
I don't know.
don't see him being called
It's
Kobe
spelled
or Kobe.
it seems to be spelled as Kobe. So I'm kind of pronouncing it
I think we might have got
the
different translations because I've got you're talking about Nomiya, eh? That's the character
yeah,
you're talking
Nomiya,
about.
yeah.
Yeah, I've
His
got Nomiya Tomomi.
I'm on Manga Nello, and
Yeah.
it's been translated as Kobe.
So he's called Nomiya Kobe.
Yes.
So Kobe,
So
Kobe
yeah,
Nomiya.
Kobe. Yeah, Kobe Nomiya.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
is he?
My
What is he?
translation is not called that, and I'm pretty sure we read from the same page.
Okay. Well, I'll just call him Nomiya, just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we
We'll
don't
just
keep
keep
getting
him
it
calling him
confused.
Nomiya.
Yeah. So Nomiya is a essentially a high school dropout.
Mm.
He's a big basketball player. He's not complete. He's not the best player, but he is good. Ridiculously good. And I guess he has a crisis in his life, as far as I can tell. He's got into an incident himself that's resulted in because he was in a motorcycle
Yeah,
incident and
and a
he
girl
picked up a
got
girl.
crippled because of him.
Yeah, yeah, essentially. So he's having he's got a guilty conscience about that, because this is something he's caused and it's something that he's guilty over, and that's something that's really impacted on him. So
Mm.
he's basically quit school, left it, and even left the basketball team he was with there. And looking, yeah, kind of looking at the guy, you would think he's a bit of an a-hole at the beginning, because
He's a bit of a
he
punk.
he's a punk, yeah, basically. But you do get to see he does have empathy, he does have feeling. So
Mm.
he's not a complete a-hole. I think he's a good character that you
Mm.
could work with in terms of trying to understand where
I,
his situation,
yeah,
everybody else's situation. I think, and of course, the last character we have, whose name I have just
is
actually forgotten.
Togawa Kiyoharu, and he is
Yeah.
a very cocky wheelchair basketball player for the team, the Tigers. And I'm gonna spoil some stuff here. So he once was he was forced to be a piano player by his dad, be a pianist, and then he didn't want to do that, and he decided he wanted to be a runner. And meanwhile, while all of this was happening, he was having these problems where his legs would have spasms, they'd keep on shaking. He didn't know why. And so he eventually decided to become a runner. He became a very good runner, like really good. And he was on the school team. He was doing really good. And then they found out he had some sort of, I don't know exactly what it's called, but he's got some sort of disease. And basically they had to amputate one of his legs. So he's an amputee. And he had to obviously give up his, well, he maybe could have done his running career, but he decided not to. And I think maybe that's because of the spasms, because maybe, I think it affects his other leg as well. So he basically decided not to do that, and eventually went into wheelchair basketball. And he's kind of a cocky, but a very nice guy. I think the difference between him and Nomiya is Kyoharu's very he's actually a very intelligent guy. Sometimes he's a bit he gets a little bit emotional, but he lashes out. It's interesting. All these characters get emotional. All these characters lash out, but they all lash out in different ways. I would say
Yeah.
Nomiya is very much thinking with his fists. If he gets really angry about something, he solves it with his fists.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
It does come about. It does. The most prominent part would be him. What is it? Him telling telling a car full of other punks to just f off,
yeah,
and then pulling over and beating him up. But I think that was
well,
previously because of
yeah,
But previously, what happened was he realizes that I think he realized that the girl he had an accident with was discharged,
yeah,
and he never got to see
yep.
he didn't get to see her one last time or even say
Yeah,
goodbye.
yeah. Later on, he also beats up a bunch of other basketball players, and ends up getting into a lot of trouble for that. And then I would say Kyoharu or Togawa, whatever you want to call him, he he's more of a passive aggressive sort of guy when he's getting very emotional. He just, like, if he's angry about something, he just won't go near it. He just ignores things, and he just decides, the best thing to do if he's pissed off at someone, he just won't talk to them. He's very much that sort of person. And then Takahashi, who is going through treatment, he is very much he just sort of says what's on his mind, and he doesn't really think until later about how his words are going to affect someone. So it's very interesting. All these characters have their own sort of problems, but they all have different ways of dealing with them, and I think that's one of the things that really attracted me to this manga. And I like basketball a little bit. I wouldn't say I'm as big as a fan as my brother. My brother's a really big fan of basketball, and he plays and coaches a team and everything. But I have a kind of a casual like of basketball, and a little bit more than obviously soccer, as we mentioned before.
Hmm.
And my favorite team is the Raptors, which is a Canadian team. And there is a Raptors reference in this. Kyoharu Togawa is referenced to a player, Vince Carter, who played with the Raptors in 1998 to 2004. And I think he plays for the Hawks now. And there's also other references to other players like Jason Kidd, which is a player from the Dallas Mavericks. There's a lot of Kobe Bryant references in this. I think the reason for that is I think that's just the author's team, because he also references Kobe a lot in Slam Dunk as well. And his characters usually tend to have whatever haircut Kobe Bryant seems to have. Like the main character in Slam Dunk has his haircut, and our character Nomiya has his, I think, both of his haircuts. He has his sort of afro-y sort of thing that he had in the 90s, and then later on he has that sort of shaved look that he had in the 2000s. So yeah, that's like one interesting thing to get from this manga if you're into basketball. And I would say that the game is actually the reason I'd say it's called real is because the game is handled very realistically. It's very fast paced and it's very well drawn. The action's very well done, but it's not dragged out. Like no match is going for lots and lots of chapters. It's usually 2 or 3 chapters sometimes. And sometimes we don't see the match. Sometimes we just get the outcome or little things like that. And yeah, it's handled very realistically, and it's very well done, very well detailed. I'm just gushing now. I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of this manga. Yeah, Eric, what did you think of just the did
Well,
you were asking about actually before I get into that, you were asking a lot about Kobe Bryant. Does that help me explaining some of the
yeah, little bit. But I guess in terms of focusing on the manga, obviously I have to say that I'm not exactly as big a fan as you are. So I guess where the whole I think where the whole topic of this review would be is our different interests in the sports. But for me, looking at real, um, yeah, I will agree on a few things, including the hand drawn actions, because one of the things I really like looking at things that were drawn was, I guess, the wheelchairs, because the wheelchairs just look really detailed. Like I'm looking at maybe half of a wheelchair right now. Okay, look, I'm in part of the manga where I can see half a wheelchair, but I can see like more than half the parts on it, and it just looks fantastic.
Mm.
Um, I can see the wheel. I can see the underside that's connecting the wheels together. I can see the supports for the chair above. I can see the front part of it. I can see the bars connecting everything. It just looks fantastic, and including the action scenes. I think one of the things I was expecting, I'm not trying to sound mean or anything, but the falling scenes, because we can expect to see even these guys in wheelchairs falling down when they
Oh, it happens all the
play
time.
basketball. Yeah,
It
yeah.
happens all the
So
time.
what I was kind of expecting to see here is a bit of a comical drawing when they fall down.
Yeah.
Not sure if that's mean or anything, but that's kind of what I was expecting. But um, looking at the looking at the falling
Mm.
scenes, they're actually really good,
Mm.
and it does almost make you feel the impact
Mm.
of when they do actually fall down, which is quite impressive when
Yeah.
they get drawn.
I think one thing you also haven't pointed out that we should definitely mention, and I don't know if you noticed this, but with like sports shows, they sometimes draw them like shonen shows with the action, where like you get the
Mm,
action lines, and when like someone falls, there's like multiple different angles of where it goes. Like they
yeah,
try and make it a bit more cinematic. This is like clearly. Like they show you the action and you're all seeing it, and it's not trying to be like a spectacle or
yeah.
anything sort of. It's not trying to show you like how it shows you how amazing and fast they are, but like it's showing you like in just a like, oh, this is how fast they are, rather than like, look at this like frame by frame, and we're gonna show like the action line, and then we're gonna show like the face, and then we're gonna show the hand as it like, goes for the dunk and all that. Like it's
Mm. Yeah, yeah, you're right. Everything seems to be shot in one angle, and
like one or
there's
two,
nothing that
you
I'm,
know.
yeah, one or two, and there's nothing over dramatic about anything. None of the players, not even one of our main characters, whenever he scores a shot, there's nothing over dramatic about it. There's even one scene, I think, in the second game, where in the second game with him on his old team, where he gets knocked down and after he scores a shot. So he's lying on the
Mm.
ground, he's looking up at at the hoop where the ball is. And it's just a simple matter of the ball going one side, then the other, then finally down the hole. Okay,
Mm.
it might seem a little bit boring, but if we remember all the times we did it, playing basketball, that actually happened, and
Yeah.
I like that scene because you know the main that main character was just just as desperate as I would have been seeing that watching that ball like going, please go in, please go in, please go in, please go in. So it was a really good moment drawn, I think.
Mm.
So I give props to this artist. He does draw moments like these really
Mm.
well,
Mm.
especially I think even tragic moments get drawn quite well, and I think the gist of it is that when we come to Takahashi, the one of our characters who was just recently paralyzed in the manga,
Mm.
or paralyzed in the first few chapters, he we do see drawn chapters of that sort of unfortunate incident from beginning to end.
Mm.
The beginning being him being hit by a truck to the almost, well, at least where I'm up to, with him
Well, what's
still on the
interesting is we
hospital.
we don't see the impact. We just see him on the bike, and then we see the truck clearly coming at him, and then like later on we see him in the hospital.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I found that kind of funny, but because it's usually they do show that kind of impact drawn
Mm.
and shown,
But
but
I think
I
that's
think it
where it's
was.
different. Like it's not trying to be like a spectacle. Like in
Mm,
other mangas, it would show that, and then you would show like him falling off the bike, and it'd be like kind of in like a slow mo sort of thing. Like here, it just like you see it, and then it cuts, and then like you kind of have an idea of what happened, and then like later on we see him,
yeah,
and then we
but
find out the impact of like that hit later on as we like go on. We figure out, oh, he's paralyzed, like he's screwed.
yeah, and I think. what is it? I think it's also kind of to hit home the point that when Takahashi was hit by the truck, it turns out he lost quite a bit of his memory from that impact. And so when he wakes up, he's groggy, and not just because of the painkillers probably, but because he lost his memory
Yeah.
of what happened. He wakes up confused. He's unsure of what happened. He's just like he's in a hospital bed and he's trying to figure it all out and he can't remember it. And I think maybe that's why we don't get to see that impact, because this is a little bit of perspective of Takahashi's. All he remembers is he tries to remember what he can, and the impact kind of cut that short. And later on when he does remember it, it really hits him hard, no pun intended. And you do get to see him kind of flaying around, crying out, and trying to all these emotions spilling out, which I think, as you mentioned before, the author draws, quite a lot of the emotions taken,
He's good at doing facial expressions,
yeah,
I think. That's one
he
thing we can definitely mention.
really is. I think so. Some of these, even the neutral facial expressions look pretty good. But of course, I think, of course, the most impactful expressions the author has made is the ones where the characters cry or get angry. That's when that's when we get to see a lot more detail and a lot more human-like. It's a lot more human-like when you see all these characters, with these tears that streaming their faces. They've got their mouths, tightly shut, and just when they're angry, you get to see the creases in their forehead. It's just all these lines running down. It's
really
ridiculously
detailed.
good. It is ridiculously good, and I really like it.
I think we have to mention this because this is something with all his manga. Unlike a lot of manga where people look at it and they're like, oh, those characters meant to be Japanese. This manga, you look at it, you're like, oh, yep, those characters are definitely Japanese. Even the characters who've died here, you're like, yep, that character is Japanese. Like, all his characters look like what race they're supposed to be. Because he draws, like, most of his characters, even in Slam Dunk, he draws his characters with, like, a very realistic, like, eye size and lips and, like, just, he can draw, like, characters to make them look Japanese in a way that suits manga, that isn't racist or isn't like caricatured or anything like that,
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does show, and most of what we see in mangas drawn now don't look Japanese. So when you have a guy like, sorry, what was the author's name again?
His name is Inoue
Yeah.
Takehiko.
So when Takahiko, I'll just use that name. When Takahiko draws these, it really, yeah, you're right. It does really look like the characters are drawn as close as they can be to what Japanese people look like, but not too much, or taken or drawn out of context to make it look too ridiculous.
Yeah,
and that is I guess it's a good thing to see as well.
I'd say the only thing with the art is a couple of the female characters don't look very good. And when I say don't look very good, I don't mean they're drawn badly. I just mean, like, I don't know if this is on purpose, but a couple of the characters just don't look attractive, like, at all. Like, some of the younger, like, the characters that are meant to be girlfriends and things like that, like, some of them look like kind of... I guess that could be a compliment, too, of, like, some of them looking pretty average or... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One other thing I was going to mention, I actually watched some wheelchair basketball as well and prep for this because I'm mostly a fan of actual basketball. Not saying that wheelchair basketball isn't a sport. It is. And man, are these guys fast. Like, I watched a game and they are really fast. They don't dribble that much. That's one thing I noticed. And yeah, like, it's watching actual wheelchair basketball and then reading the manga, I could tell how much detail and effort he's put into actually capturing, like, those matches and the actual games. The only biggest thing I will say is I watched the Paralympics and I watched Tokyo versus England, I think it was, and no, Tokyo versus Canada. And the biggest thing I noticed is even though Tokyo won, I noticed, like, just to me, they didn't seem as skilled as Canada's team, even though Canada lost. Like, just technique-wise and speed-wise, that's just one thing I noticed in terms of when I was watching. But also, one thing we really should mention with wheelchair basketball is how fucking buff they are, like their arms and shit. Since they can't use their legs, they have to like work their upper body. And Jesus Christ, like some of those guys, their upper bodies are so fucking like, you know, so strong.
Yeah, I haven't exactly watched any wheelchair basketball, but I can.
You've
But I
seen
know
the
what you're
manga
saying.
to know like how big these guys can be, like their upper body strength.
That's the thing though. That's not always shown. But I think the only time it was shown was the foreign exchange student from South Africa who had arrived to play against one of the main characters. He was in a wheelchair, and holy crap, he was a giant. He was like what is it, 180 centimeters or something like that. That's basically my height, and I'm just trying to think. Oh, geez, the other main character is really short. It was. Yeah, it was. Looking at him and looking at how he was drawn and looking at the muscles that he had, it was slightly. It was a little ridiculous to see, but it is understandable when when your legs can't be worked and can't be can't grow the muscles that they should, then all that's left is your upper body. And I can't imagine the kind of exercises they'd have to be able to do to get that kind of
You could probably
those
still
kind of
lift
muscles.
weights. You
You can
lift
probably,
weights.
yeah, but I think it has to be kind of specialized because if you are going to be doing weights, and I've done this not only at the gym but with a personal trainer, some of the things you need to do when you're lifting weights. Some of it is required to have balance with your legs. So when that balance in your legs is taken away, you're going to have to compensate it by either changing techniques or changing the style in which you do, or just change what you do altogether. So I would actually, I would be a little curious to see exactly what kind of things the characters do or have done to be able to, build their muscles up to, continue play basketball and gain, a bit more skill that way.
So let's one thing that we haven't touched on that might surprise some people when they read this. There is a couple chapters that follow a ex wrestler who gets into an injury and he loses his bottom. I don't know if Eric's even up to this part. He loses his lower half. Basically, he can't use his. He's paralyzed, and he is basically determined that he will get back in the ring no matter what, and he does end up getting in the ring, and they figure out all these ways for him to still like continue the fight even though he can't use his legs that well, which is really interesting. I don't even really like wrestling that much either, but that was an interesting chapter to read. Did you get up to that point, Eric?
No,
Okay,
I haven't
so
seen
that's something
I
you
haven't
can
seen
look
any
forward to, I
wrestlers.
guess.
I haven't seen any wrestlers really,
Yeah.
so I can't really say. I can't really make any comment on that. Well, if I do get up to them, I will. Yeah, if I do get up to them, I'll talk. I guess I'll have a conversation with you about it. But at the moment, all I'm really seeing is one of the main character in this backstory. It's what is it, Tokugawa or something? Or
Tokugawa Kiyohara.
Tokugawa. Yeah, that's the one.
Kiyoharu. Sorry, Kiyoharu.
Kyoharu, yeah. Kyoharu. So I'm looking at his backstory at the moment, and I'm seeing his
his dad is pushing him to play piano, or is it?
No, I've gone way past that. What I'm actually looking at right now is the part where his leg is starting to hurt. So this is after his 3-day rest, and he's back to running. And now he's in the bathroom, and his leg is starting to hurt. So I guess this is when they're about to realize that there's something more than just him pushing himself, and they're about to realize that he's there's something wrong with the bone in his leg. I wouldn't say. I wouldn't say there's any, I've ever seen anything like this. In fact, I've barely seen any kind of injury where it's gone to this point. And what is it? Yeah, as far as I can see, it seems to not just be a slow process, but it seems to be a slow process they're aware of. But because of the little understanding of what the condition is like, then
Mm-hmm.
it seems to be just getting worse for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think.
Honestly, I'm not going to be looking forward to when they find out and when they have to go through the process of,
Yeah, no,
accepting that there's nothing else they can do and they have to, what is it, remove the leg.
there's gonna be some there's gonna be some tears. Gonna be some
Yeah,
sad moments.
I'm honestly not looking forward to that.
Yeah, yeah,
But for the sake of actually reading this, because I enjoy this manga,
yeah.
I'm gonna keep reading it.
So
Yeah.
yeah, we've briefly touched on Takahashi, but we haven't talked about him that much. So he loses his legs and is and been hit by a truck. He's paralyzed, and he's an ex-basketball player. He used to be friends of Nomiya, and then they sort of something happened, and they stopped being friends. Oh, Nomiya basically sort of became a jock, and not Nomiya. Sorry, Takahashi sort of became a jock, and he sort of went off into his own group. And what we find out actually that's interesting about this too is it touches on what sort of friendship means and what sort of relationships mean, because the only people that visit Takahashi are his family, his mum, and then after a while his dad finally comes back into the picture, his estranged father who he hasn't seen in a while, and his girlfriend, and those are the only three people that come to visit him. And then
And
eventually his
and
teammates
wait,
do come and visit him, but we find out that they're not really there to see him. They don't really care about him. They're sort of just coming there because they feel they have to as a part of the basketball team. And there's kind of, you can tell they maybe feel like, well, it would be bad like if we don't visit him. You know, there's not really like a bond. They're not visiting him for the right reasons. And Takashi sort of learns this, and he kind of starts off for a lot of this. He lashes out a lot of people. He doesn't really mince his words. He doesn't hold back, and it's not till he gets into wheelchair basketball and some other things and starts to see hope in his life that he starts to sort of realize some of his faults and try to work on himself and try to be nicer and connect more with his father and things like that.
Well, I haven't really gotten up to that part, but I will mention that other than like before anyone else visits him, other than his mother, Takahashi had a visit from this girl who has a crush on him and the one who gave him a love letter.
Wasn't that his
So
girlfriend? I just
no, no,
assumed
no,
that was his
no, no,
girlfriend.
no. His girlfriend was that real fugly looking chick.
Isn't she? Yeah, but she visits him a lot.
Uh, you mean weeks after the accident?
Yeah.
That's when she. So no, the girlfriend wasn't that chick who gave him the love letter. That was like his
Okay.
crush, and
Okay.
his actual girlfriend grabbed the letter and just tore it up. So, but the actual girlfriend visited him way after that.
Mm-hmm.
But even before her, maybe a couple of weeks after, or a few weeks after the incident, his crush actually that his his the girl who had a crush on him visits him, before his girlfriend, before any of his friends,
Yeah.
before anyone else really. And I'm just kind of thinking, oh, geez, how sad must your life be when when it's someone who has a crush on you visiting before anyone else aside from your family.
Yeah.
Jeez, it's
Yeah.
nuts.
So you were talking before we reviewed this. You didn't like and do you still not like Takahashi, or is he grown on you?
I can understand if there isn't I haven't seen enough development in Takahashi to like him again, to see whether this changes him into a better person, to make him to have a different outlook on life. At this point in time, I kind of pity him, really. But I do kind of dislike him as well because he's still an ass.
Yeah.
Maybe this incident will change him, but I'm not seeing that right now. But I do pity him. I do dislike him because I feel like this is karma, kicking him up the ass. And right now, it's a matter of just seeing how well this how this will change him for for better or for worse.
Yeah, because let's get, so that could be some cons sort of we can get into here, because my issue is I think it would be, there are points where, yeah, I enjoy the basketball, I enjoy seeing the other two characters, but Takahashi has a really interesting and actually quite realistic depiction of what it's like to be in a hospital and going through this process. As I said previously when I talked about this, I've been in a hospital for an operation, so I know what it's like to sit there and go through all of that and talk with doctors and stuff like that. And I've worked in a hospital, so I know what that's meant to be like, and I think that is captured really well here. But I think it does need to be focused on sometimes a bit more, because sometimes you're like, I don't really want to hear about this part here that Nomi is doing, because I'd rather hear about, Takahashi, or it's cool that you're showing me a game, but I would rather you go back to Takahashi, because, like, he'll leave little things in the development, and then, like, we don't get to see the payoff for a bit, and so that can be a bit disappointing. I'd also say that Nomiya's story kind of drags, and he, out of the three characters, is kind of the least interesting. He's kind of an idiot, and so there's like parts where he's just been kind of an idiot and kind of a doofus, and it's not that funny or interesting. So yeah, those would be my two big cons. What about you, Eric? Is there any other things that you weren't too big on with this manga?
Not exactly. I think at the moment Takahashi is my biggest con. He's not he's I don't, I just kind of dislike him as a character at the moment, and even with the accident, it's not going to change my opinion. It's now making me more pity him than anything. But my opinion will change. Could change depending on how this incident will change him, and for better or for worse. And really, there's almost no other cons I can really think of, because with Nomiya, he's not exactly a con, but he's not exactly a pro either, because his story, he's involved in the story, but he seems to be more of a side character who's describing the scenes as they are. And Tokugawa, Togawa, yeah, I think he's the main character. He's definitely the big guy in this whole series. He seems to have this whole scenario for him is pre-existing. He's gone through it. He knows what's going on, and maybe he'll be there for Takahashi to kind of help him through it.
Yeah.
So I think Togawa is definitely the main character of this whole series, and Nomiya and Takahashi are kind of they're not supporting characters, but they are kind of they're kind of the side characters that do hang out with the main character from time to time. And even though Nomiya has a reason to be here, he's done something terrible. His story's from the perspective of someone who puts someone else in a position where they've they're in a disability. They've had an accident. This is what happened. But at the moment, you're right. It is in some way dragging out, because it seems to be, where am I at the moment in this chapter? He's finally found the girl after she moved to the countryside, and that's pretty much where I'm up to. Yeah.
So finally, let's. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, that's it. That was it.
Okay. So let's get into our final thoughts here. So this is a, maybe if you don't like basketball, although I would recommend this. This is a definite recommend from me. I would also recommend, if people like realistic samurai stuff, go and check out Vagabond. That is also done by this guy, and that's probably some of his best art. If you want to see his art really shine, go read Vagabond. Slam Dunk, which he had done, everybody knows that kind of drags a lot more than this in terms of the matches, but this is a really good manga. I really enjoyed this, and I will definitely continue to read it. Eric, what are your final thoughts?
I'm definitely going to continue reading it. I like the art style. I like what I I like what is it? I do like how the story's leading on. I like how the author actually puts out these emotional scenes. They seem to be quite. I don't want to really say legit, but they are real. They are what is it? They are real scenes. They do carry them. The impact there. The not just with how the expressions are drawn, but also with how the positioning. The positioning of the characters. The scenes themselves, what their actions tell about them. I don't think for the most part, I don't feel like the author even needs to, put in dialogue for this. If he really racks up his skill, he could potentially create a story without even, putting in any dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
He could just create a story just from, facial expressions, scenes and actions
Movement.
and
Definitely movement.
yeah, essentially all this movement. So I'm definitely going to continue reading this because this looks really cool. Yeah. So yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Cool. So guys, we are not doing. Sometimes we do a segment called "Finish It," where we talk about a show that we previously reviewed here, and we finished it. We are not doing that for a bit. We just won't, unless we've got a bit more time. But things are obviously getting a bit more busy again, so we won't be doing that. But I am going to announce something right now that we are going to be doing soon. So next week, we may or may not have a podcast out. It may be a while because I am planning, and Eric might be hearing this for the first time, although I've kind of brought this up before with him. I would like to review the Rose of Versailles series, and I know some people have reviewed, done articles and stuff, but I'm not finding, honestly, enough podcasts talking about this show, and I love this show. I think it's fantastic, and so we are going to start watching a decent chunk of it, and we will either review the first half of it and then talk about the second half maybe another week, or what we will do is we'll just review the whole thing, which means if we do that, you guys won't get an episode maybe next week, you'll get it the week after, because it's about 30 something episodes, so it might take us a while. And I also want to make sure we've covered some of the history and some of the directors and things like that, so that's something for you guys to look forward to. Yeah, so we'll catch you guys next, we'll catch you guys maybe next week or the week after. This has been Alternating with Eric, episode 20. Catch you later.
Bye. See ya.